how did my real estate investment company make on one deal $124,042.44? That's a six-figure day at closing. How did we do this? Well, first of all, it's an exception to the rule, especially in residential real estate. Not every day is a real estate investor going to make $124,000 on one deal, unless it's an exceptional situation. But what I will say is the most important part to how we were able to do this is based on the problem or problems that surrounded this particular deal. Remember, real estate investing is all about people, but it's about solving the problems the people who are attached to the real estate property have, if that makes sense. So we have a seller, right? You are the potential buyer. And once you are able to connect with the seller, fact find or ask the right qualifying questions, you learn about the problem or problems that they have that have motivated them or sometimes involuntarily forced them to have to sell the property. Depending on the size and the scope of that problem, it will have a lot to do a lot of times with how much you make on that deal. But it's no different than any other deal. You have to know what the problems are. You have to be able to do the math, and you have to be clear on what the potential upside is on that deal if you structure it correctly. So I don't want to get into all the ins and outs of this particular deal, but basically we found the property. The seller was in a very distressed situation. They had problems that they could not solve, especially when you started looking at the dollar amount of the problems that they had. In this particular situation, they had about $65,000 to $70,000 worth of problems. The average person probably don't even have $6,000 or $7,000. Not only did they have about $60,000 or $70,000 worth of problems, but the home was actually vacant. They had already moved on with their lives. They had washed their hands and they were finished with it. So for you and I, if you're an investor, we have to approach the situation to, number one, make sure that we know what the seller's problems are, and we have to know the numbers behind that problem or those problems to make sure that if we solve the problem financially, let's say in this case, if we solve this $70,000 problem, which means in order to purchase this property, we might have to have 70 grand tied into it. All right. So how am I going to get my 70 back, and how am I going to make more on top of that 70 to see to it that I can come out on top? If you're not able to understand those numbers, which we may generally refer to as underwriting the deal, analyzing the property, comping it to make sure everything pans out. If you don't understand that, it doesn't matter if you want to solve the problem or not. And it doesn't matter if you find all that stuff out. You have to have the money or have private money lenders, hard money lenders, or somebody in place, some type of bank in place, whether it's a human bank or an institutional bank, to be able to financially support the problem that you want to solve. So with that being said, I'm super excited because we were able to close this deal, walk away from the closing table with $124,042.44 for RP Capital LLC. We're already in the process of working on putting together a couple more deals. We're not afraid to walk away from deals if they just don't meet the criteria that we have. However, we know that the most important thing to be able to make money like this in a real estate deal is you have to find the problems. You have to know how to solve the problems, and the dollar amount that's associated to solving those problems has to make sense to you. It has to make sense to the seller, if in fact they're even concerned about it. And it has to make sense to the market if or when you're going to put the property back on the market to either rent it, do a lease option, or in this case, flip it and sell it to a homestead buyer, a family who's going to appreciate it, hopefully, for the next couple decades. Either way, the problems that are solved have a lot to do with the money that you make. So if you want to know more about how we do what we do at RP Capital with creative real estate investment strategies, all you have to do is click the link in the description, or you can simply go to RamonePreston.com. There in our hub, you'll find links and resources to our real estate investment courses that we have, real estate investment mentorship that we have, and we actually have regular workshops where we do deep dives virtually and in person on all the ins and outs of creative real estate investing. I know we hear this all the time, but I'm gonna say it because it's true, at least at the time of this video. This is an amazing time to get into real estate investing, particularly with strategies creatively that will not only make you a lot of money, but solve a lot of problems and help a whole lot of people in the process.